Hey ya! How you doing? So this has been coming up in my space a lot lately with a lot of my clients, so I wanted to really speak to it because it's really interesting since I went through my own experience of really going into the energy of the sexual predator. I've been attracting a lot of men who've been who have really been seeing that this is a big thing for them. Hey Sam. So I really wanted to speak to some of the things, the practices that I do with men to help them, and why is it important? And this is really interesting work. So what I notice with a lot of men, particularly the ones that have usually it's around have some kind of erectile dysfunction, or maybe they have a lack of sexual confidence. They have a fear of approaching women, a fear of of even going out and dating because they're worried that they won't be able to perform, right? This kind of thing. What I usually find is that they have this nice guy energy, that they are showing up in the world as a nice guy. And I'm not saying that that's a bad thing, but what I'm saying is that usually it's basically like the nice guy is to cover a disowning of their primal animalistic nature that wants to fuck, hunt, and kill, basically. Because in society, this energy has got a lot of the sexual predator energy that has been shamed and shut down. And the issue with that is that energy is what builds testosterone, okay? So that puts a man into this primal energy that builds testosterone and helps him to be more masculine and helps him to actually perform and penetrate sexually, penetrate the world with his presence, with his purpose, and drives him, right? So we're in a world that men have become quite emasculated by society, emasculated by women, emasculated by themselves, emasculated by other men. And so they often go into like a wounded feminine space at times. And this is kind of where the nice guy energy sits, because they don't want to be seen as an asshole. They don't want to be seen as a bad person. They don't want to be seen as a sexual predator. Because that's bad and wrong and shameful, right? So it's kind of like you've got on one end of the spectrum, you've got the energy of like the sexual predator, and the other end of the spectrum is the nice guy, or the spiritual nice guy, let's say. And what we want to do is we want to own all parts. We want to own it all, right? And so the nice guy usually will have more of this feminine energy, and the sexual predator is very masculine. And so what happens is the sexual energy is very leaky. So you can tell when a man is in the sexual predator energy, because it will usually be very overtly, you'll see that how he tries to pick up lines really out there, or objectifying, this kind of energy, right? And then on the other end of the spectrum, we've got the nice guy who feels a lot of these things and may feel like he may objectify, he may watch porn, he may have porn addiction, he may feel sexual desire and arousal, but has shut it down, right? So it's actually in shadow. It's actually sitting there, but it's shut down, right? And what this then happens is that it leads to things like erectile dysfunction, and it leads to shutting down sexual energy. It leads to, okay, I'm not owning the part of me that wants to fuck, hunt, and kill, so I'm going to deal with that by watching porn. I'm going to deal with it by numbing my emotions. I'm going to deal with going into some kind of, thanks Alex, I'm getting all your love hearts. And so what I really have been working through with men lately is really owning this primal energy, this fuck energy that has been so shut down and shamed in the world that it's wrong, and they shouldn't be showing this part of themselves. And really what I've had to do is really hold a space of compassion to understand that men are born into this world surrounded by sexual images constantly, and porn has become so accessible these days. And so what we want to do is as I was saying before, the nice guy, usually the sexual energy is kind of in shadow, and it's not overtly out there, but it's usually suppressed and shut down. and then it's maybe coming out in unhealthy ways. And this can be very really affect a man and his happiness and the way his worth, and underneath that it is shame around feeling like a sexual man and being a sexual man and having sexual desires and having arousal, maybe when it's inappropriate to be feeling arousal, right? So the medicine to this is to really go in and for a man to really go in and own this energy. And because once he owns it, it will not be in shadow anymore, and he can use that energy as a way to be more confident, as a way to penetrate his purpose, penetrate the world, and in a healthy way, not in a leaky way, right? Yeah, right, exactly. That's what I mean, like embracing it with integrity and owning it. Like that's where I feel that's at, is owning it. So I wanted to share with you a few practices that I've been doing with clients. It's a dress, Ariel. It's a dress. It's a full dress. It's a really beautiful dress. Anyway, is what I did. What I did with the client this morning is called this practice. I want you to, because there's actually two different practices there, but and it was actually it's like getting a man to go into is really claiming his wants, really claiming his desires, really going, this is what I want. It doesn't necessarily mean we're going to do it, but it also like being able to own his wants and desires, and stepping into his dominance with that, right? So we did this particular as a undressing practice. So I would tell the client, okay, I want you to undress yourself and touch yourself in this type of way. And it could be, a sensual way. It could be touching himself like in a massage way. It could be touching genitals, whatever was wanting to. It was really tuning into my body rather than the mind of trying to get it right. And that's another thing that the nice guy does, is trying to get things right and try to get approval and try to please. So I was really encouraging my client to step out of needing to get this right and really tuning into actually, what does my body want? If I really own this desire in my body, what does it want? Without the fear of what I'm going to say, whether I'm going to say no, or whether I'm going to reject, or whether I'm going to get offended, right? And you can also see how this plays out outside of sexuality, right? So being able to really own the desires and wants without fearing how the other person might receive that. So I really encourage, like, let go of I'm really good and strong in my boundaries, and I will, if there's something that I'm not comfortable with, I'll speak to that. And we're with love and with compassion and without wrong making. And so, really encourage him to really look at, to really be and feeling what the desire wanted. Without sometimes, when I'm feeling into that, I will get like visuals, or I'll just be feeling pulled or drawn, right? Yeah, exactly, Daya. Radical honesty, really, without that fear. And so so that was the first thing that we were going through, and really and during that, using breath, sound, touch and movement to get into the body, to tune into what the body actually wants and desires. Most people are trying to in their heads, when you ask what someone wants, often they'll be like, I don't know. And it's actually, you do know, your body knows, but you're actually disconnected from your body, and you're trying to decide from the mind, and usually the mind is trying to get it right? Because that's the way we've been conditioned around right, wrong, good or bad. So it's trying to pick something that will be good or right. Whereas the body is actually like, no, I know what I want, and you just need to give me permission to ask for it, right? So that's one of the other pieces, is giving yourself and giving other people permission to really be honest with themselves, and to choose from choose what's true for them, basically. Ask for what's really true for them. And this can take practice, right? Like, I still really have to call myself on this stuff of when I don't really ask what I really, really want. So that's about owning our desires and our wants, right? So if you're in the good girl or the nice guy, generally you won't. You'll be in pleasing and trying to gain approval and love, instead of being really true. Like, if you're really, 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 really honest with yourself, what would you ask for? Not letting go of it being too much or being too out there, or whatever, like it might, or that it will affect the other person's emotions and you don't want to upset them. And be prepared to hear no. That's the thing. As soon as you are not prepared to hear no, it's an expectation and it's a demand, right? So you have to be prepared to hear that. yeah, so basically, hashtag the fuck energy. Taylor, can you, I'm not sure exactly what you're meaning there, Clan. Can you please maybe make that clear, and maybe I can kind of debunk it, not debunk, it's not the right word. I can kind of like see what's under, maybe see what's going on if you're open to hearing my point of view on that. Yeah, totally. Consent is sexy, right? And I think this is the stuff that needs to be taught in schools is consent and boundaries. And so we can get really clear on us for what we want. This is another, I work with the wheel of consent in my sessions a lot as well, working through these different ways of exploring, giving and receiving and taking and allowing. So that was one practice. It's kind of like a loving domination practice of really being clear, like this, I want you to, right? And so the client would ask me, I want you to take off your dress in a certain way, or I want you to turn around, I want you to look in the mirror, I want you to say these words to yourself, like whatever's wanting to come through, and giving permission to feel desire by what's being witnessed. Another practice that I do is having a man being in witness to a woman in her own embodiment, in her own pleasure, in her own self-pleasure, in her embodiment through erotic dance, through self-pleasure. And there's two beautiful pieces to this. The first piece is to give a man a transmission of a woman in her feminine embodiment can be really powerful and healing. And also there can be a level of real vulnerability in that. Now, most men have seen things like porn, where porn is not embodied. Porn is like usually friction-based fucking energy, right? And basically, this is like a lot of what is being seen, where what really men are craving is feminine energy. Like, men are starving for feminine energy because so many women have actually become quite masculine now. And that I could go into a whole conversation of why that is, but I'm not going to. And so it's really about feeling a woman in her embodiment can really open and melt a man's heart, and it can be really beautiful. But what I also do in this piece is give a man permission to feel desire and arousal when he sees a woman in her sexual energy, in her femininity, in her sensuality, is to give a man permission to feel that, because most men are walking around seeing attractive women and feeling arousal and desire and berating themselves for it, shutting it down or shaming. Like, this is kind of the nice guy energy that will actually shame themselves for feeling sexual desire. And then again, the way they'll go and manage it often is to go and watch porn. Like, end of the day, they're like, oh fuck, I've got to release this somehow and get it out of my system because it's too much. And so one of the pieces is to actually fill the man up with feminine energy. And what can also happen here is that so it's actually, let me go back. So it's giving him permission to feel desire and arousal in the witnessing, right? Whereas before he'd shut it down. One thing also I love, it actually really turns me on to be witnessed. Like, it's one of the things that I love, and I get really turned on by it. So actually having a man desire me, it actually turns me on. Like, when I can feel that. And now the other thing that I do though here is in getting a man to, instead of going into, oh, I need to fuck this woman, I need to touch this woman, I need to take this woman, I need to claim this woman, which in some spaces I might want to receive that, right? I might want to be with that man, particularly in my personal life. But basically what will happen is I will get them to go into bringing this into themselves, bringing that desire, bringing that arousal, bringing it into themselves and claiming it for themselves. Right? Because ultimately what they're really longing for is their own feminine energy. What they're really longing for is their own vulnerability, their own sensuality, their own piece of them that feels. That's what they're longing for. And so, and they're wanting their own compassion and love, and so really bringing it in and owning this part of themselves. And what I'm doing is I'm giving a transmission of a part of themselves, basically, a part of them that they already have within them, Okay, so they already have this piece within them, but it's just been shut down because they're taught that this is wrong and bad, and this is for women, like this is a woman's energy. Actually, we all hold feminine energy, and what they're really desiring is that part of themselves. So it's almost like what I say to them is, I want you to drink in my energy. I want you to bring it into your own experience in your own body, and know that this is a part of you, right? So bringing it in with breath, bring it in from breathing up from the sex center, up from the cock into the heart, with touch, with self-pleasure. Like I encourage them to self-pleasure, but not in a friction-based, trying to have ejaculation way. And I'm going to pleasure myself as though this is the sexiest body I've ever touched, as though I'm a god, as though like I'm adoring myself as I would adore a lover. I'm really bringing that into the body. And feeling themselves, okay? And it can be almost like their own feminine is touching the masculine part of themselves, right? And so that's another, and sound as well is really important. Bringing in sound, breath, sound, touch, move. And I say this like a repeated record, and I'm seeing all your comments there. Thank you. I'm really grateful. I'm not going to have time to, because I've actually got a client coming shortly, so I won't be able to actually reply, but I'm gonna jump on later and reply with words. So that's one, is this witnessing self-pleasure experience, and then we can go into actually witnessing each other. And well, I'm gonna have to go, guys, because I've just received a phone call and I have to take it. So, but there's a part 2, because there's like 4 more practices that I haven't shared with you guys. So I'm gonna have to go, but watch this space. I'm going to do a part 2 when I go, because I've actually got a client that has arrived. He was running late, and so I thought I'll get time to jump on, but he's here now, so I better go. All right, beautifuls. I hope you got a lot out of this. Please feel free to share it, and have an epic day, or until I see you in part 2. Bye.